the introduction of AI happened for me basically overnight because we started testing it while I was on maternity leave. So I left, thought I knew kind of the state of the world of technology, came back a couple months later, and all of a sudden, agentic bookkeeping was the hot term. And my name is Allie Nolan, and I'm the VP of Customer Operations at Pilot. It means that I manage the managers who manage the managers who manage the accountants who handle the client accounts at Pilot. I actually left the finance industry about 8 years ago, and when we moved to the Bay Area, I was really interested in being a part of building something. I really wanted to get into startups in particular, and that's how I ended up working at Pilot. Well, first, I love the people that I work with. I love my coworkers. I love my team. I feel like everybody tries really hard. Everyone's really open-minded. Everyone does their best to learn and adapt and grow every day. And I feel like that sort of I don't want to call it humility, but that sort of growth mindset, I think is actually pretty hard to come by. There's one really special thing about working here. And then I love our customers. So I think that the companies that we work with are all building cool or exciting or just fun things. And it's great to be a part of helping to develop their businesses and supporting them to do what they should be doing every day a little bit better. Customers that have grown me, honestly, a lot of the software startups we're working with, they have just so many different offerings. They have a lot of subscriptions, a lot of models. The pricing models behind the scenes can be quite complicated. And so from a technical perspective, the more complicated and the larger that our customers have grown, the more that I've been pushed as well to try to find the right sort of most streamlined solution for that. So there was pre-Meridian technology, and then there's sort of post-Meridian technology, where the introduction of AI happened for me basically overnight because we started testing it while I was on maternity leave. So I left, thought I knew kind of the state of the world of technology, came back a couple months later, and all of a sudden, agentic bookkeeping was the hot term. And I was pretty skeptical. I think I've been building bookkeeping technology at Pilot for 8+ years. And so I've seen a lot of promises of the incredible things that technology could do. And some of it really is incredible. It's rare that something is incredible on day one. You're usually you have something kind of scrappy going, and then there's feedback back and forth. And then over a few months, you start to build something together. And then now when you take a step back, you're wow, that's amazing. So for me, as somebody who went from directly handling accounting and client accounts to more management, which is more my day-to-day, getting back into doing the work and having the AI technology and seeing it for myself and handling it for myself was pretty eye-opening. I think the thing that stands out to me as being the most magical for Meridian is it makes everything possible. And so what we've seen with technology kind of in the, let's say, decade leading up until this year, oftentimes customers and workflows, they aren't kind of a perfect match. And so the customer finds themselves either kind of hopping around looking for a solution that actually fits their needs, or they have to kind of adapt the way that they want to work internally, the way that they handle their payroll, the way that they handle their invoicing, the way that they handle their billing. They have to adapt that around the tools. And so sometimes it feels a little annoying, or there's friction there. It feels it's not exactly the right fit for their needs. Or eventually they just sort of give in and accept this sort of maybe B+ type experience. And so for me, the big change with Meridian is actually standardization is no longer kind of the way that people need to get things done. AI has judgment, and so it's able to adapt to like the exact customer preference and the exact way that like our customers actually want to handle their workflows internally and want to like present their financials. AI is a tool, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. It can, it can take a direction that is like maybe poorly written, like poorly formed, or like where there isn't enough detail or specificity. Like one thing that I've learned over the past year of working with Meridian is actually like crafting the right prompt is its own skill. And it's one where we're really investing in our team to make sure that they have the training and the resources and the confidence to feel like they're prompting AI in a really productive way as well, so that they get the results that they actually are seeking. I have found that AI, because it's a tool, you need to know what your end goal is. You like need to know where you're trying to get to. You need to know kind of like what's right from a regulatory perspective. Like if you think about like a CPA, like what is the thing that you pay them to do? It is to like have the judgment and to be willing to take the liability on a call that you have made about your financials when you go to pay your taxes. Somebody told me to read this book called Managing the Professional Services Firm by David Meister. And so I have read it cover to cover. It's very interesting. So in the very first chapter, at the very beginning of the book, David Meister talks about this like triangle of professional services firms where every firm exists to accomplish three things in the world. One is to provide an excellent client experience. The second is to guarantee the staff at the firm like progression in their careers. And the third is like basically for everyone to like make enough profit to like fund the lifestyle that they want to live. And so I think kind of like what changes in that triangle is like and I sort of talked about this before in terms of like where we're pushing the team is like by pushing into better client experiences and by having people and by flattening the org, by having people directly engaging with new and different types of clients, different sizes of clients, different industries, people are going to find so much more breadth and they're going to have so much more exposure to different types of companies and problems and types of work, and they will grow that way. They'll grow by understanding new technology, kind of like getting familiarity with different systems, seeing different industries, seeing different parts of like tax code or what have you. And so I think that for me feels like a better match for, at least for my team, like why they took this job. Like they didn't take this job to eventually go into business development. They took this job because what they like is they like the client work and they like the financial work. And that's kind of, I'm able to provide them with like a career growth trajectory, like a growth ladder that like keeps them doing the things that they love to do. And to some degree, when you have like an old playbook, right? And like the industry has all agreed on this playbook for like billable hours or like tax prep, kind of like the deliverable. They've all agreed on what the deliverable is. They've agreed on what the staffing looks like to produce that deliverable. They've agreed on like roughly how much it should cost and roughly the pricing scheme. And that model of business has existed for like generations. And so I think that can just feel very disorienting and it can feel confusing about like, okay, where's my value now? Like, where do I fit into the picture? Like, if everybody has AI, like if my customer can go sign up for like a Claude subscription tomorrow, like where do I fit into the picture? But I think the reason to do it is because ultimately, like it's better for you, it's better for your team, and it's better for your customers to stay on top of the technology. Like you still have all of these kind of like years and decades of experience and knowledge and expertise, and that's still more valuable. You know, like a business owner with Claude is just like a business owner with Claude. It's like a business owner with Excel, right? Like you could, the ability to do this yourself has always existed. It's making the decisions that's always been hard. And the way you make good decisions is if you have lots of experience and if you work with a lot of people who also have a lot of experience, and collectively, you can create kind of like the best solution for a customer at the end of the day. if I think about what accounting has looked like at least my last 10 years, the last 10 years that I've been in this industry, it's looked like a lot of like just reconciliations. You're just like going between systems. You're kind of like comparing like this $50 expense to like that $50 journal entry, and you're making sure that everything is representing the same number so that it sums up to the right number on the P&L at the end of the day. And that can feel actually very tedious. I think if I think about kind of like my time split doing accounting work, let's say 5 years ago, it was like 70% kind of like in the books, in Excel, in the spreadsheets, trying to make sure that everything was right. And then 30% on talking to customers and thinking about the future for them. And in some cases, for some customers, like you rely on them to tell you where they're going, and then you kind of just need to make sure that everything is set up to support that longer term. I think where accounting is going is actually that 70% of just like late nights, fourth cup of coffee, looking at different bank statements and spreadsheets and like the general ledger. Almost, I don't want to say entirely goes away, because I feel like there's always going to be some of that, but it's not going to be 70% of your time on the tedium. I think that 30% of your time where you're in the world, kind of like talking to people and helping businesses operate more efficiently, or helping business owners have the clarity to make the decisions that they need to make about their livelihoods, is going to be much more of the split day to day. And for me, that's why I got into this job, and I think that's a little more motivating.